Hi, my name is Penny Owen. This is episode 3 of Successful Kids, Successful Schools. So, welcome back. This is my partner, Bill Cecil. And last time we talked about what it means to be a successful kid. And what it means is they are concrete learners, they need to feel successful in the moment. And mostly what that means is they're going to build skills in elementary school. We're not talking about collecting data. So I'm going to talk 1 minute about test taking. Test taking is an abstraction, right? It's an abstraction again, and an abstraction. They literally are teaching kids how to understand what it means to fill in the bubbles, right? That's like a lesson that they have to learn because they don't get it and they don't know what it does and they don't know where it jumps to and they don't care. What they care about is that they see themselves as successful in the moment and other kids see them successful in the moment. I'm going to stress other kids. And they can chart that through building skills rather than collecting data. So I'm not knocking testing. I understand what its purpose is. But what you got to understand is at the same time, you've got to give kids that sense that they are successful in the moment because that is what they understand. That's what they know. Balance. Yeah. Balance, great word. I'm going to spend 2 seconds talking about, well, no more than 2 seconds, the fact that I'm from Akron, Ohio. So what does Akron, Ohio mean to you? For almost everybody in the world, Akron, Ohio means LeBron James came from Akron, Ohio. That's exactly, because LeBron James, from the time he was 18, he goes, I'm a kid from Akron, Ohio, and I'm a poor kid, and blah, 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 blah. Akron, Ohio means LeBron James. And I got to tell you, in Akron, Ohio, we love LeBron James because LeBron James made a promise to Akron, Ohio. He has the I Promise School. He has the I Promise Health Center. He has I Promise Housing. He has the I Promise, God, I don't know what you call it, restaurant where you work, where people learn skills. It's the I Promise that I will give you skills and you learn how to run a restaurant, right? But I'm going to talk about the I Promise School for a minute. People that don't like LeBron want to say this school is failing. Well, the fact is, LeBron takes the kids that are absolutely failing in school, right? So he starts out behind the 8 ball, period. He has a documentary which is really interesting to watch. I suggest you watch it. You'll cry. It's just astounding. But he takes these kids and he sat down and he said, no, it's not enough to give them what they need to take the test. I've got to make sure that they feel safe at home. They have a place to live, so there's housing for their families, right? But he builds skills. So in terms of test taking, what they've discovered is they've leaps and bounds in skill building, they've progressed. But in terms of the other schools, they still aren't doing well. So some negative critic can say, oh, well, they're terrible. It's like, no. He's got to build their skills before he can then, improve their grades on an abstract test. So today we're going to talk about 4 skills that we think are absolutely critical to elementary school learning. And I'm going to start first. Mine is concentration. And what I'm going to talk about concentration is concentration can come from anything, but I'm going to really stress the importance of playing games. If you play a game, there's a man who wrote a book. His name is Johann Huizinga. He wrote a book called Homo Ludens. Homo Ludens means playing man, right? So we are Homo sapiens, wise men, which is kind of a joke when you think about it, because we're kind of not so good at being wise. But what he says is that men from ever before time was recorded played games. They were competitive. War is a game. Politics is a game. And he goes on and on about how everything is structured. And the thing about a game is that games have rules. You can see yourself improve. You can see yourself build skills. So what I do in my special is I start out building concentration, their ability to focus. Their ability to focus is also connected to cooperation, which Bill is going to talk about. But concentration, I start with, I'm going to talk about this one. I start with red light, green light. So when I was working as a guest artist in schools, I had to do this thing called Very Special Arts Festival. We toured the state of Michigan, going to back then they weren't kids weren't mainstreams that had disabilities, so we went to these special schools for kids with disabilities. But they put us in this working with kids in prison, and I'm like, oh great,
I got to work with you.
this is, yeah, you did. but I went in and I'm doing I had my thing geared to kids with disabilities, and I'm saying, okay, we're going to play red light, green light, and I'm talking to kids in prison that are like hooked up to the wall, and they're
Teenagers.
their hands are like here,
Yeah.
because they're supposed to be possibly hiding a gun, and I'm going, we're going to play red light, green light, and they're like, and I'm like, I'm so dead meat. And so being me, I said, okay, but we're doing this. So I pull them off the wall and I go, we're playing red light, green light. And these kids were hooked. So then that got me into the idea that I was going to work with kids in prison, which I did for another 8.5 years, until a different administration said, no, we don't care, but we want you to hurt kids that are bad. We don't want you to like be nice to them. So doing drama games is not going to do it. But at the time, I walked into this middle security prison, and Bill came with me sometimes. And I started out with red light, green light, which is a total concentration game. Okay, here's what's interesting about that game. When I was working with the kids in prison, I could play the game for a half hour.
I know, I was just going to say that.
A half hour, where these kids are like glued and so competitive.
Super
and
focused.
So good. Yeah. I mean, so incredibly good at this game. And I'm like, wow, I'm doing this with kids in prison from they're like 16 and 17 years old, and they're like, they're gangbangers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like going, red light. And I'm not turning around, I'm not doing that young kid thing. I'm standing right there going, red light, green light, red light, you're back, go back, whatever.
You were tough. Oh boy.
And they're like completely focused. I played another game. So I'm trying to stress the importance of games. That was the Prince of Paris lost his hat. And they're all lined up, and they got to remember everybody's number and who's out. So they got to be totally focused on this game to win. And then I did the cooperation, which is going to lead me into your taking over with cooperation. I started doing mirrors with them. And again, the kids in prison, I got to tell you, just adding that sense of winning and competition.
Yeah.
And it's skill-based. It's not based on, I read it in a book and I'm reciting it back to you. It's like, I am good at this, and I can be really good at this, and I can beat everybody else, and they will build their concentration, and they can see from one week to another.
Yeah.
That they're really getting good at this skill. But mirrors, you work with another person.
Yeah.
So Bill puts hands up. Yeah. So we keep our eyes on each other, and I'm leading, but I can say change, and now Bill's leading, right? And we do all kinds of things change, right? And I can raise this hand, and they got to stay. And if I can tell who's leading, they're out.
Yeah, very competitive again.
Competitive and cooperative.
Yes,
now.
yes.
So now I'm going to turn it over to
love that.
The next skill, which is
observation or cooperation. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I just want to go back and touch on LeBron James one more time, really. It's because what you just described is, he is the living definition of not just school connectedness, but community, that schools should be the hub of a community, and that's what our school should, or that's what our schools should be, the hub where people bring their kids, and yet we also bring the parents in, or we make those connections. So he's right on it, because that's what makes it work, is that kids have to believe you care about them and that their classmates care about them.
Yeah, and I'm going to add to that. So later on in our episodes, Bill did a whole thing about bringing the parents in.
Yes.
And LeBron is great at the I Promise School. The parents are totally involved
Yes.
in their kids'
They're
education.
like partners.
Right. And back when I was a kid, and back when Susan was a kid, if you weren't in the Parent Teachers Association, it was a disgrace. It was a total disgrace. Well, now, if they have parent teachers organizations with like 3 parents.
Right.
So the parents are beginning to see it as it's your. I'm buying this from you.
Yeah.
I'm buying my kids' education from you, rather than
Absolutely.
we are a community that is helping our kids learn.
Yeah, they don't feel welcomed anymore, and so they feel almost combative at times.
Right, very combative.
To be combative, to be heard, and that should not be the case. So
Right.
that's shame on us. I feel that we're not doing more to make them feel connected, and then make them really understand we're for their kids. We're their biggest fan.
Right. And as I said, we're going to touch on
Yeah.
bringing parents in.
I just had to bring it up
But-
because of
but I love
LeBron.
it.
I love
So
LeBron.
now we're back to cooperation.
Cooperation. So for me, again, with what I'm trying to do is build strong teams, as you know, that to be a strong team, everybody has to cooperate. I'll give you a good example. There's a quote I like, an African proverb that says, "When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion."
I love that so
I
much.
love that quote, and I had that in my room. And what I was trying to teach the kids is that we can all be successful, but we can be more successful if we all pull together and choose bigger goals sometimes too. So you can have both. You can be on a team and go after a team goal, a shared vision or a mission, which is what we always did every year in my classroom with the best year ever stuff we're going to be talking more about. But also individually, you start to build your own confidence when you're on a winning team, and you're like, yeah, I have something to contribute, like you said in that last story. And so, yeah, it's like, it's something that it's just really healthy. And so cooperation, though, is the key. And this is what I try to tell my kids, is that you have to be willing to come in and work with each other, not just the people you like, or, so we have to build a team, and we'll talk more about that down the road. But definitely, if we can unite, we can do things that we could not do alone. I'll give you 2 examples real quickly. My favorite example is when I was 7 or 8 years old, we had a babysitter we did not like. Her name was Kathy. And we now refer to her as the babysitter from hell. And my mom and dad would go out one night a week, and they would, Saturday night, like clockwork, she'd be at the door saying goodbye to them. Bye-bye. We'll be super sweet. Like she was the angelic of the Rugrats to, the parents. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You be good, like Eddie Haskell, and leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so bye-bye, because we're old. We need that reference. Bye-bye, bye-bye. And then as soon as the door closed, she'd say, you guys leave me alone. And she'd say, I'm watching TV. That's the only TV in the house. Don't bother me. And then she'd go to our fridge and take all the food we couldn't eat, free food. And she'd go in there and watch TV. And my sister was fed up. She was like 3 or 4 years older than me. And she was fed up. She's like, tonight's the night. We're going to get rid of Kathy, the babysitter. So all day long, we made a plan. She had a plan. She made sure you talk about, this is my first winning team I ever played on. I was a little kid. And she said, you all have a purpose. We need all of you to pull this off. If one of us doesn't do it, we're not doing it, because it's an all in or no in. And so we did. And we practiced all day long. And, we did what we had to do. My dad was out mowing the lawn. My mom was out grocery shopping. We worked on this all afternoon. So that night comes. The babysitter does exactly what she said. Leave me alone. He's in the family. My sister takes us all upstairs, and she said, okay, guys, this is it. So we all had little jobs. So what we were doing, just to give, I want to make this quick. I won't give you the long version. We had made a dummy to look like my babysitter, Kathy. So we thought. This was back when moms wore wig heads, the plastic wig head, styrofoam wig heads. You put the wig
Right.
So it had a head, styrofoam head. We decorated to look like her. We had a wig on it that we kind of got hooked in there with bobby pins. And then we made sweatshirts that we, tied knots, and we'd fill them with cans and books and things, because we wanted to give it weight like a babysitter. So we did this with the pants too, no shoes, but so when the babysitter, we had to start a fight, my sister and I, because it's teamwork. So we were like, because oldest female, oldest male, who's in charge. So we started that fight, and we're kicking our feet upstairs to make her come upstairs. And sure enough, she doesn't come up. So we look at my little sister, who is the gifted one. She can cry on demand. She starts crying. They're going to kill each other. They're going to kill each other. She runs down. You hear her talking to the babysitter, crying like she's just just hysterical. She comes running up. She's coming. She's coming. So she comes back upstairs. My sister and I are looking over the balcony. My one sister, who hasn't been involved yet, when the babysitter flips the light on to come up the stairs, we're looking at the railing over, looking down from upstairs. My sister gives her the signal. My sister upstairs turns off the light so it goes black. We drop the dummy on the babysitter. And my sister screams bloody murder. It hits her, and she has to go and grab the stairs because she's
gonna fall.
It was a little too heavy. I think we made it a little bit too heavy. one too many cans of green beans. But anyway, so she wasn't hurt, but she went forward, and all of a sudden she started flinging, screaming. Ah! She stepped over. This tells about her character. She steps over the dummy without even looking down. She runs out that door and out the back door and never came back. We celebrated like champions until my parents came home about 10:30, and we got punished severely, but we never had her again.
Yeah.
I learned that night that when you're a part of something larger than yourself, that is teamwork. That's what team's all about. We all kind of got our confidence that, yeah, we rule the roost, even though we lost.
You got punished.
Yeah, we didn't have friends for about a month, but that's okay. And then the other quick example is Michael Jordan, getting more serious about it. Michael Jordan, I remember he had a coach that came up to him because I was in Chicago, and he was like the LeBron James at that time. And he said, hey, you're obviously an all-star. You're an MVP player, but we're never going to win championships if you don't share the ball more. You got to use other people because everybody knows how to defend you now. So if you start giving the ball away, then what they're going to do is they're going to have to mark up those guys, and you'll have more chances to shoot down the road. But you got to be willing to share that so they don't know when it's going to happen. And so he said, yeah, that makes sense. So that's how they started winning their championships. And they still, I think, have the team with the most championships under Michael Jordan was six championships. So anyways, those are two examples of what I try to teach my kids, is that we can do anything we set our minds to. So if we say we're going to work to have our best year ever this year, we're going to work together to make it happen.
And you share the ball.
And we share the ball. Everybody, diversity equals strong team. Everybody has different skills to bring to the table. And so that's what you want to have in your classroom. So what I did in my classroom, I know some people are, well, how do you do that? Well, the first thing I did was I had a vision, which I'll go into in more detail. But the second thing we did was I had my kids sit in groups of 4 or 5. And I made sure they were sitting with kids they didn't work with before. And I had them mixed in groups of kids that were maybe struggled in certain areas more and kids who were stronger in certain areas, so they could help each other out. But they were teams. And then just like in an oil change, every 4 or 5 months, I'd mix the teams up again.
A heterogeneous table.
Yeah.
That becoming more and more heterogeneous.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And so it was like, and then I would do an oil change. I would do a team building game each time for a week, different activities to make that team close again. And I would give them individual projects too at their tables, so that they had to, they were kind of competing against the other teams for fun, but they had to work together because the skills for these projects, they had to do so many different things. If probably one kid isn't going to be, I know it all, just back away, I'll do it. They needed everybody's different skills to make it work.
Right. I want to talk about that for just a minute.
Yeah.
The importance of this heterogeneity is that it became a game. The longer I was in education, that they were supposed to have heterogeneous classrooms.
Yes.
And they'd have them for the first half hour.
Yeah.
And then they would instantly split the classes up into the bright kids, the middle kids, and the dumb kids. And the dumb kids,
that struggled.
Kids that struggled. Yeah. And but the kids, those kids referred to them. We're in the dumb class. This is the dumb class.
No, that's what they think.
The thing is, they were not being heterogeneous at all. They had somehow decided that the bright kids could take care of themselves, so they didn't really have to work hard. The dumb kids were lost, and so they only cared about the kids in the middle in terms of improving those test score grades.
That's what they aimed for. Yep.
But the reality is that heterogeneity, and I want to talk about, we spend so much time thinking diversity is skin color or ethnic background. No. It's cultural, maybe, but it's the life experience that you bring. It's your genetic background. It's all sorts of things that make you, that is about diversity. So I always feel like we've misplaced the word diversity, because we just want it to be
It is. It's now a word to use more, I think, sometimes in this current day to divide than it is to
right,
bring people together.
right.
And that's unfortunate. But yeah, absolutely. And it's like, for example, the example I would give to the kids is that if we're a soccer team and we're all goalies, that's going to be nice. That's a commonality that brought us together. Like, yeah, we're all friends because we're all goalies and we can
Right.
being a goalie and it's so much fun. And we're not going to be a very good team though, because we don't have anybody that can play defense or
Right.
midfield or forwards that can
Right.
shoot the ball, and so we're not going to win a lot of games. And so it's not a very strong team. It might be a fun club to talk about that goalie camp or something, but it's not going to work in a competition against other teams.
Right.
So to be our best, we have to rely on each other's different skills.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's why cooperation is so important. Last thing I'll say about cooperation is that I would teach my kids how to cooperate in groups, because a lot of times teachers will say, kids will come up and say, we can't work together, and they're just wasting time, valuable time. So Spencer Kagan, who's a cooperative learning guru, just
Right.
the god of cooperative learning, and that's what I came in when he was becoming popular. And I would encourage everybody to get a Spencer Kagan cooperative learning book. It's worth having in your library. And but anyways, he had something called the 8 modes of conflict resolution. And I took time the first 2 weeks to teach them each mode of the 8 conflict resolutions that you could use whenever you have a conflict within any group. It could be
So you could cooperate.
yes.
You could get back to cooperation.
So the 8 modes, and I'm just going to read this again, is the first one was share. So I'd have things where they had to share materials. They only have certain times that they got to work to share, make sure it's balanced because it won't get done or something like that. But they learn to share. The second one is, if you're having a conflict, is take turns. So instead of arguing about it for 5 minutes and wasting time, I'm going first. Okay, how about you go first this time, but I'll go first next time. Okay, great, let's go. Postpone. If somebody really has to use the red marker because they love the red marker, let them have it if it's no big deal to use. So yeah, we're not going to waste time, but I want that marker, or put out 2 red markers, whatever. But the point is, find a way to postpone sometimes so you don't say, don't let this interfere with what we're trying to do right now.
Mhm.
So that's a big one. Humor. I love humor because humor can disarm people real quickly, and it gets them in a place of more relaxed, and they're like, okay, let's just work this
Yeah,
out.
you love humor.
I do. I live by it. Yes.
Yeah.
So avoid. If you know that something's going to be an issue, try not to say, let's just, if we can postpone it, great. But if we can't, let's just avoid it totally. That'd be even better, because then we can just say, let's don't waste our time on that. Compromise. So just learn to go somewhere in between. Like, I want this way, I don't want this way. Like before, I want lunch or I don't want lunch. Okay, I'll eat some M&Ms. I'll be good. So it works things out where they can keep going. And then also chance, flip a coin, always works. Seek outside help. That was me. So I'd say you always had to do 3 before you come see me when you're working in your groups, because I'm going to ask you, what were your 3 things? And you have them do it while they're calm. They make up their 3 things that they're going to do
Right.
in that group, so that they're all like, yeah, we agree. They write it out so I know that they did that. Great. Okay, you guys are ready to go. And so then if they have a problem, I can say, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? If not, go back and do that. Try that other one and then come see me. By mid-year, nobody comes to me the whole time because they're just so cooperative, solving their own problems.
Right.
And we are moving like lightning speed to get things done because we're not wasting time on so-and-so's and it's not getting along. And so all of this comes together. And so that's an important one.
Yeah, and I am really liking this idea because we think about cooperation as being almost inevitable. Oh, you just cooperate,
Yeah,
which is kind of ridiculous
Yeah.
because that's not how it works. I mean,
Look at our
there's
government.
somebody, yeah,
I'm just saying, I don't want to get political, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
yeah. I mean, there's always somebody that's going to whine about something. It's like, oh, I don't want.
Yeah.
And so, so the idea that there are solutions instantly.
Right.
I love the come up with 3 possibilities and try them.
For me, yeah. And-
Right.
Yeah, I once had a guy come into my classroom the last 10 minutes of the day. They were finishing up a project and he had a problem and he said, can I talk to you right now? I said, yeah, absolutely. What's going on? And he went on for 5 minutes and he goes, Bill, thanks for listening to me. I think I got the idea. I said, great. Okay, have a good day. He starts working on it and he goes, oh my gosh, we're in a room full of kids right now and they're all working so quietly. At the end of the day, how'd you do that? I said, I pointed to the poster, 8 modes of conflict resolution, baby. Invest time, it will pay off,
Right.
So, yeah. And then the other one was observation. And this one's really pretty quick. Observation for me is that you're using multiple senses to read your classroom, because that's really what you got to do. Is if you're going to be a good leader in your classroom, you've got to learn to walk into a situation and right away I can just hear it. What am I hearing? And so is that kid happy? Is that kid unhappy about something? Does that kid like something that I can bring up again later? Because that builds our relationship. So you're listening all the time to what's being said around you. Does the talk sound negative today? Do we need to do a backup and maybe talk about how we try to be more positive the way we work on our, things that we're working on? But it's always having your ears open, not just kind of trying to, knock or be deaf to what they're saying because you're so busy locked in your own mind about what you're trying to do. To always have your ears open, walk around the room. I never sat at a desk, I always walked around the room so I could interact.
Yeah, it was always interesting because you didn't have a desk. I mean, your desk was like back against a wall somewhere, and it was a place to put. Yeah, it was where you put stuff. It was like it was not Mr. Cecil's desk.
Right. I often would pull up a chair and sit with kids or something if I had to, or I would just walk around the room. So there was no front or back of the room because you had parents. My kid's always stuck in the back, and I was always stuck in the back.
Right.
I hated that. So my back of the room became my front of the room more than my front of the room.
Right, and for me, I never had a desk because I was a guest artist, and we always sat in a circle on the floor.
Yes.
And so I was a part of the group instantly because I was in a circle. But it's interesting now because of the smart boards that the teacher is over here, the smart board is up here.
It kind of locks them in.
And all of their focus is on the smart board. The teacher is like not even a part of the class in a way because she's controlling the computer.
Yes.
Which I think is a huge problem.
It can be, but when it's not being used, take advantage of it as much as you can. That's what I'm trying to say, is because we got to find that balance.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Eyes are super important. Again, you can see body language. Like I said, when I walked in, I saw Billy Cecil's first week of school, or somebody coming in with a hard slam on their locker that day that doesn't usually come in. Because I'd meet them at the door every morning, welcome them in, because it's customer service, Good morning, glad to see you today. You can have a great day.
Customer service, yeah.
Yeah, it is, man. And so, but if I saw a kid do something like that, I kind of say to them before they walk in the class, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Is that something maybe we can leave out in the locker just for today and you can just come in and have a great day because I got some good things planned. So I made a connection, and that's what you want to do, is make personal connections with your kids as you go and see who are your leaders just by, again, watch with your eyes. You can see who kind of leads and who whatever. So yeah. And then finally, feel. This is my favorite. You can walk into any school and within 30 seconds know what kind of a school it is.
I'm going to talk about that because I was a guest artist.
Yeah.
And I can absolutely tell you, you can pick up the vibe.
You can.
The minute you walk into an entire building.
I visited many schools when I was serving as Michigan Teacher of the Year, and that was what I learned to do very quickly, was walk in and even go, okay, get your game face on because this one has a bad vibe.
Yep.
Going super friendly to the secretary because that's the first person.
Yeah.
And so, but it's same thing in the classroom. You want to read your classroom. Sometimes you need to ease up and say, you know what? Right now, we're going to do something fun. Let's take a time out. You guys have earned it. I've been pushing you pretty hard.
Right.
Or right now, something positive I can throw out there and say, you guys are doing such a great job. Keep it going. But you learn to read your classes, your classroom, your students, and all these little things. People don't sometimes, and I never was taught any of this in college. None of this. And so what I'm trying to do is bring in things from the outside world that other people have told me work.
Right.
Like my dad in sales, he would say you could tell which customer is interested in buying, which wasn't, but you always still go up to the one that isn't interested.
And the dog has to eat the food.
That's right. You can turn them around
by
building a relationship.
Right.
But these are things I did in the classroom, and I really do think it's an important thing to do. I would read the 1-minute manager and the 1-minute salesperson if you ever get a chance, because they're back in the 70s. They're still around, used, but they are great about what to do in your classroom that needs.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm going to now talk about our last skill, which is imagination. And I'm not going to spend that much time about it right now because it tears me up. Imagination. We've lost it in our schools because of testing, because you can't test imagination. Well, if you can't test imagination, then you can't test, that's problem solving. That's critical thinking. You can't it isn't just being creative. Mm-hmm. It's that imagination helps you solve a problem. Imagination helps you be critical about what a problem is. There's so many things involved in imagination. And because we're teaching to a test so much, and it's a lower order thinking skill, I'm going to spend 2 seconds on this. I have a student that I love to this day, who I will tell you more about later on, but she was probably the smartest, most sensitive kid I've ever had, right? And she had a teacher who she adored, who taught her to explode the moment. Well, back in the day when she was taking tests, that you had to do a writing sample, had to be 45 minutes, and it was a 5-paragraph essay, right? Well, she had been taught to explode the moment. So what happened with her is that she would get bad grades on her writing, and she was the best writer in the school. She was better than, she was in the 3rd and 4th grade. She was better than the fifth graders. She was writing on an 8th grade level, but her scores would come back because she exploded the moment. So she didn't finish the essay in 45 minutes.
Gotcha.
So they take out. So the thing is, they were literally killing imagination. We just want you, if you have a 5-paragraph essay, we ask you the problem. In that first paragraph, you restate the problem in a declarative sentence, right? They taught it. Well, Selena explored the moment, and it was interesting and it was fascinating, and she got terrible grade because she just didn't say, the reason why this is blah, blah, is these 3 issues, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4, conclusion, right?
And that can affect the love of learning or the love of writing and her confidence. I mean,
imagination is so much fun, and it's so unique to the individual. And there's so many positives about imagination that we have to see it as a skill.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
Oh my God.
It's not an extra. It's like one of the most important skills that we can teach kids in elementary school. So saying that, we're going to end on that note because I think we're running out of time. And we're going to come back to you next time talking about what's happened in schools and we've talked about building successful kids. Now, how do we take successful kids and create successful schools? So thank you and goodbye.